Yeshua, your King of praise. Shalom, everyone. This is Messianic Rabbi Buzz Tremé, the Jew teaching you. Welcome to our Bible study. Yeshua, you are the way. Yeshua, you're you turn my
Okay, so Adam, God made this covenant with man, and what was the sign of this covenant? The covering. Man had to have a covering. He looked around, man looked around and said, none of the other creatures that God has put under me, which I'm in fellowship with, and I care for, I even named them according to their function, none of these guys are wearing anything. They're just naturally in the buff. And he looked over at his wife and said, and so are we. This is cool. But then placed outside where thorns existed, and sticker bushes, and things like that, ants to bite you, they needed some, I want to say the German word, Kleidung, clothing. So they need to be clothed. And so God gave man a covering. This is a sign. You need a covering, buddy. And he spends the rest of his existence worrying about what covers him. We live in a time of rebellion towards God where it's like, how much can I reveal? It's just a propensity, it's a intrinsic in humanity to be sinful, huh? And we're not saying you need a burqa. You know, woman is to be glorified. I mean, she's awesome. I love my wife. She's really, cool. I don't want her wearing a burqa in public. You know? I guess I got the point, huh? All right. So what is the sign? It was the covering that God made. Now, they put their own covering on. How well did it do? It means, man, you can never cover yourself from the transgression that is in you. Only God can do this. And it was done by the shedding of blood, and an animal that was pristine under their care had been killed, and the blood being offered atoned for their sin. Okay, nothing permanent, only the blood of Yeshua could do that. Right, so we move on now as humanity got really out of control. Don't forget, during the times pre-Noah, the angels were on the earth. And don't think of angels as these winged guys that flutter and play harps. That's a medieval picture, and it's really very, very damaging in a lot of ways. But you need to see these guys for who they are. They come from above, they enter into our world, and sometimes we see them and we know what they look like. They look like us. The only thing is, they don't have Adam and Chava as their ancestors. We do. We have Adam as our forefather, Chava, Eve as our foremother. We descended from them, so we carry the genetic makeup that was in that couple. Angel, on the other hand, don't. We need to keep that. They are a species built by God, but they have different characteristics in many ways. One thing is they're all male. And we can only speculate how that ended up that way or whether it started off that way. Don't know. But they did use some of them use their malehood, manhood. Yeah, and that's just what they did. Because they were on the earth as the government, God's government on the earth. And they were teaching mankind some bad things. Blood was being shed. Yeshua said at his coming, it'll be as it was before the days of Noah. So bad, God had to wipe everybody out, including these angels that were doing the sinning. Well, they messed around with the girls and produced Nephilim. We see their works in archaeology continually as archaeologists dig these things up and go, what kind of culture could have built things like this? What kind of culture could have built the pyramids? Who could have done such things? Well, the Bible says these were a hybrid creation or a hybrid offspring of angels. The Bible says who have much greater power than man, but will serve man in the end, be his servant. So the angels have great capabilities and abilities. Some of them decided to corrupt humanity to stop this plan of God, which was underway, which was in process. So they created by laying with the ladies. In Genesis 6, it tells us this. And the kids born from them are referred to as Nephilim. Nephilim are fallen ones, technically, if you break the word down. It literally means those who are fallen. And so these angels who decided to do their own will instead of God's went with the women and produced hybrids. So you got half human, half guy. And the Bible says that this produced giants. Amazing, huh? Well, these giants were not only big in stature. In fact, we see one giant had 6 fingers and 6 toes on each pad. You know, I mean, that's pretty freaky, huh? And Goliath is another one. He's one of the giants. And these are the Anachim. So anyway, these guys existed, and so the flood came and wiped out that whole culture, and all of their remains is buried or found in the earth today, and we find it and go, wonder who did this. I don't think Adam and Eve's guys had the skills to do that. And we just go, well, we can't believe in God, so it must be aliens. An alien's a foreigner. That's what that means. These guys were definitely foreigners concerning the human race. They were not the offspring of Adam. But the point is, things exist on the earth, and you can't deny it when they find things that look like they're laser cut, and stones that are laser cut that measure the age there. Okay, just giving you some ideas. We need to think biblically and get away from churchianity. Not to leave church, but some of the stuff that's gotten in is built for us a substitute religion. We need to understand the Bible. If the Bible says that the angels cohabited with the women and they produced giants, I believe that. It's funny that somebody would come along. Historically, it's always been believed, but there's a denomination today that says, no, we just don't accept that because we don't want anything supernatural. I'm sorry I'm acting silly. It's because I feel like you need to be bonked upside the head. Reality, truth is real. Now, so the Noahic flood takes place and it wipes all those guys out. The Nephilim are destroyed. Their spirits remain because there was no place designated for them. So what are they called? This is ancient theology. It goes up to the historians, the writers of the New Testament era, the people who were students of John and Paul and so on. You know what they wrote about this? About the demons? It says they're the spirits of the Nephilim. Okay, the angels, we know, were placed in a chamber. Jude tells us, and 2 Peter, New Testament, tells us that these angels that committed the sexual act with the women, they got bound by God and put in chambers where they're being tormented while they await the final judgment. But their offspring, the product of the women that took their seed and reproduced, they're the ones that got destroyed in the flood along with the other mankind, but they had no abode. Man has an abode in the underworld, Sheol, or Hades, the Greek word, New Testament. Sheol, Hebrew. Okay, that's where the abodes of the spirits go. Well, that's where they went. Only it's to a torture chamber, you know. No, I'm thinking the angels. The people, the Nephilim, there was no place assigned for these hybrids. So their spirits roam the earth, and they're looking for bodies to inhabit. Now, they don't truly come into you, and I'm kind of getting off here, but demon spirits do not enter people. Now, that's kind of how it's presented. We can't really understand it any other way. But in reality, if you do study on this, you'll see that what they do is they lean on you. Just like somebody twice your size, a bully on the playground. If you're at school and somebody, you see them coming, it's like, oh man, leave me alone. And they want to harass you and get you to do things against your will. They keep leaning on you and leaning on you and leaning on you, and eventually their glory is greater than your glory. And they lean over you and they oppress you. They push you down. You still have a will, but it's so immersed in their will. It's so subdued. That's the picture of demon possession. So to break that possession, Yeshua has the power, of course, and He's given it to us. So we no longer treat demons like they're some special guys. They're just bad dogs. When you run across them, cast them out, keep moving. Don't give them a lot of glory. The New Testament does not give them a lot of glory. All right, so what was the sign? The covering. What's the sign here? The rainbow. And then God singles out a man who is an idolater. His father was the head of the idolater design group for Nimrod in the first Babylon, the descendants of the Tower of Babel, the people that stayed at Babel and didn't disperse, and they formed the city of Ur, the ancient city. This is where Avraham comes from in the ancient Babylon. Not the Babylon later that appears in the Bible, but the earlier one, the first Babel. And so Abraham got the revelation that there's one God that created the universe, and this other is bull. And that revelation caused God to single him out, reveal Himself to him, and said, leave this land and all of this mess and go to the land I'm going to give you and your seed after you. I'm going to give it to you. So Avraham left Ur of the Chaldees and went to the land of Canaan. And Canaan is what is today Israel, however you say Israel. Israel, yeah. Okay? So Canaan land. Okay. So Avraham went, and God established a covenant with him there in the land and said, I promise you, you're going to become a great nation. Problem was, his wife couldn't get pregnant. Sarah just couldn't get it together. So God says, but you guys are going to produce a great nation. Oh, yeah? And so God makes the covenant with Abraham, and He says, I want a sign. I'm putting a sign on you. It's going to be a little painful. Yeah. And he was 75. Anyway, at the thought of it. But He says, I want that part of your body that brings forth the seed. You know, just the more seed comes forth, the more your wife is going to produce, and their children and their children. He says, I want a mark on it. I want the flesh to be cut away. Promise of reproduction, cutting away of flesh. Sounds familiar? Something that Yeshua did for us? The Abrahamic covenant. So what's the sign of the Abrahamic covenant? Yeah. The cutting away of the flesh of that part. And so, the peculiar thing is that in the household, when the covenant was made, there's another young man that was Abraham's son, and Ishmael. Okay? God says, and do him too. And I don't know how the boy felt about it, but can only imagine. Anyway, so now, and you know the story, God later says, now get rid of that group, but they still carry the mark. Abraham says, will you bless him? He says, I will bless him. The blessing's going to come through Yitzhak, Isaac, but it's going to reach out to them. It's going to involve them. Boy, is that cool?